Presidential secrets: what leaders took to the grave until now. In March 2025, the National Archives quietly released over 50,000 pages of declassified presidential documents under a little-known provision of the 2023 Transparency Restoration Act. Hidden among stacks of mundane memos and dry diplomatic correspondences were records marked "Eyes Only," "Code Black," and "Project Candlestick." These weren't supposed to see the light of day, not for another 25 years. But a clerical error, or perhaps a whistleblower, forced their early release. The documents, which cover the presidential administrations from Richard Nixon to Bill Clinton, reveal long-concealed decisions, covert programs, and political maneuverings that redefine major chapters of American history. What follows is not conspiracy theory. It's confirmed by the presidents themselves, in their own handwriting, briefings, and classified recordings. These are the secrets they took to the grave, until now. The Nixon Paradox. Operation Deep Current. Richard Nixon will forever be associated with the Watergate scandal, but the newly unsealed documents suggest an even deeper mystery shadowed his presidency. A set of 1971 memos, written in the distinct scrawl of CIA Director Richard Helms, describe a secret military-civilian operation known as Operation Deep Current. The project's goal? To manipulate undersea seismic activity using a combination of sound resonance and miniature nuclear devices. The aim was to destabilize tectonic plates beneath the coastlines of adversaries, primarily China and the Soviet Union, to create controlled tremors capable of disrupting port cities without the appearance of direct attack. The memos show Nixon's fascination with the plan, reportedly calling it the neutron bomb of the sea. While there's no record the operation was deployed in full, a March 1972 cable refers cryptically to vibrational success off Kamchatka. Interestingly, that same month, Soviet vessels mysteriously withdrew from Pacific maneuvers with no public explanation. Gerald Ford and the alien equation. Gerald Ford, often seen as a transitional figure, harbored one of the most jaw-dropping secrets. A single folder marked "Eyes Only, MJ-12, Ford" contains notes from a 1975 meeting at Camp David involving Ford, Secretary of Defense James Schlesinger, and NASA Administrator James Fletcher. The topic: extraterrestrial biological entities, EBEs. According to the notes, Ford was briefed on remnants of an alleged 1947 crash near Socorro, New Mexico, not Roswell, and shown a photo of what one official described as a humanoid of small stature with disproportionately large eyes. More stunning is a draft letter from Ford to President Carter, prepared in 1977 but never sent, stating, "You will soon come to understand the burden of truths never shared with the American people. I urge caution if disclosure ever becomes an option." The documents contain no hard physical evidence, but the briefings raise disturbing questions about what Ford knew and why he chose silence. Carter's solar secret. Known for his environmentalism and human rights advocacy, President Jimmy Carter also carried a secret, one buried under the Nevada desert. A 1979 energy memorandum titled Phoebus Prime details a solar research project so advanced it bordered on science fiction. The classified project revolved around a prototype solar concentrator that could generate power levels capable of sustaining a small city. Developed at Los Alamos, it ran flawlessly until 1980, when a containment failure scorched 200 acres and exposed dozens of staff to high levels of radiation. The incident was covered up as a fuel testing fire. Why the secrecy? The final report to Carter theorized that the solar generator, if weaponized, could deliver destructive microwave pulses across entire grids. Carter, horrified by the implications, ordered the program dismantled and sealed. The technology was never mentioned again. Reagan's Phantom War. Ronald Reagan's presidency was defined by the Cold War, but declassified Defense Department transcripts reveal an undeclared digital war that started in 1984, Operation Black Sigil. Described as a non-kinetic engagement strategy, Black Sigil was a joint NSA/CIA initiative to infiltrate Soviet command systems with self-replicating malware designed to subtly alter data in targeting algorithms and logistics networks. The virus, codenamed Lantern Shade, was reportedly tested on U.S. Navy systems before being introduced to Soviet networks through a sabotaged Finnish software update. The operation culminated in 1987, when a Soviet missile test misfired disastrously due to corrupted telemetry data. Reagan was briefed personally on the event, with handwritten notes stating, "We must never admit, pray the Russians don't realize it was us." There's no evidence the Soviets ever confirmed the breach. But the files suggest Black Sigil continued well into the 1990s, possibly even after the USSR collapsed. Bush Sr. and the Iraqi Ghost Convoy. George H.W. Bush's Gulf War victory in 1991 was swift, but perhaps not as clean as it seemed. Declassified satellite imagery and mission briefings expose a mysterious convoy, codenamed Bandit Fox, that vanished in the desert after being targeted by U.S. forces during the early days of Operation Desert Storm. According to one report, the convoy was suspected of transporting advanced Soviet-built biological weapons from Iraq to Syria. A special ops team, Team Echo 9, was dispatched to intercept it. The team's final transmission, dated February 15, 1991, states, "Engagement occurred. Unknown gas release. Multiple casualties. Attempting extraction. No further transmissions were received." What followed was a full blackout. A CIA memo labeled, "Do not copy," describes a retrieval mission aborted due to hostile biocontamination risk. No names of the team members were ever made public, and the convoy's location remains classified. Clinton and the Labyrinth Directive. Bill Clinton's charisma and economic success often overshadowed his growing paranoia during the late 90s. Documents reveal that in 1998, following the bombings of U.S. embassies in Kenya and Tanzania, Clinton initiated a covert directive known as Labyrinth. Unlike the overt war on terror that came post-9/11, Labyrinth was a global black ops campaign run through the NSA and an interagency task force called Oracle Group. Their mission: identify, track, and eliminate emergent non-state actors with potential access to weapons of mass destruction. A now unsealed executive order, NSD 97 Alpha, authorized preemptive surveillance interdiction, effectively allowing digital assassination of foreign banking, health, and communication systems tied to suspects. At least 3 regional financial collapses in the late 90s, Albania, Sierra Leone, and a mysterious banking failure in the UAE, are linked to Oracle operations in the files. Clinton's handwritten annotation on one summary reads, "This is chess, not checkers. Don't leave fingerprints." The Whisper Room. Perhaps most chilling is the existence of what insiders call the Whisper Room, a secure, soundproof chamber beneath the West Wing, outfitted in the early 70s and used by every president through Clinton. Designed not just for national security briefings but for conversations too volatile for documentation, the room has no official logs or surveillance. However, one 1999 memo, misfiled among mundane maintenance records, refers to routine white glove sweeps of Whisper Room per POTUS request. No transcription. Analog playback only. And taped inside the folder, a redacted transcript, barely legible, where a voice identified as Clinton says, "They'll never believe we knew this. Not after Dallas. Not after Nixon." What exactly was known? The document ends abruptly, the final pages missing. The Nixon-Kissinger exchange. A war within a war. Though Watergate dominated headlines, Nixon's darker secrets lay far from Washington. A series of newly unsealed tapes from 1970 to 73 reveal private conversations between Nixon and Secretary of State Henry Kissinger that detail a clandestine campaign dubbed Operation Indigo Reef. Unlike the covert Cambodian bombings known publicly, Indigo Reef referred to psychological operations, PSYOPs, directed not at enemies, but at U.S. troops. Facing increasing desertions and anti-war sentiment, Nixon approved a Pentagon-backed initiative to test subliminal conditioning under battlefield conditions. According to internal memos, field radios transmitted ultrasonic frequencies and embedded messages meant to reinforce discipline, reduce fear, and encourage engagement. Nixon's own words, recorded on a March 3, 1971 tape, are chilling. "We've got to find ways to harden the men. They're cracking. If a little nudge in the brain helps them do their duty, so be it." When reports surfaced that several soldiers in the 196th Infantry Brigade experienced hallucinations and panic attacks after field deployments, the operation was abruptly halted. No public investigation followed. Ford's missing 18 minutes, recovered. Ford pardoned Nixon in 1974, but the scandal didn't leave him untouched. Among the declassified tapes was a segment labeled #548 Unrestored. Believed to be part of Nixon's infamous missing 18 minutes, the audio, damaged and barely coherent, reveals a conversation involving Nixon, Chief of Staff Alexander Haig, and a then-incoming Gerald Ford. The partial transcript includes this: "Nixon, you'll be president soon enough, Jerry. Just know this, Dallas wasn't clean. There are people still in the building. Ford, I was on the commission. You're telling me we got it wrong. Nixon, I'm telling you, you were meant to get it wrong. What follows is muffled, but the name Allen Dulles is mentioned, followed by the words contractor. Mongoose never retired. Though speculative for years, this tape offers the strongest implication yet of internal sabotage in the JFK assassination investigation. Ford never publicly commented on his role in the Warren Commission again. Carter's time capsule. In a folder labeled Presidential Eyes, dormant for release 2025, a curious memo appears, handwritten by Jimmy Carter and dated January 14, 1981, his final week in office. Titled simply to whomever finds this, the letter reads more like a confession than a note. They called it Tether. I saw it. I watched the footage. Not from here, not ours. I don't know what it wanted, only that NORAD tracked it from Jupiter's orbit before it disappeared beneath the Pacific. They said it was an anomaly, a one-off. But I knew better. I signed a silence order and left the room feeling like a traitor to humanity. Cross-referencing the name Tether reveals a 1979 satellite report by NOAA, previously redacted, that shows unexplained magnetic distortions near the Mariana Trench. A Los Alamos brief dated the same day concludes, contact unconfirmed. Recovery impossible. Reagan and the Reality Simulation Directive. Amid Cold War fears, Reagan launched what historians have long considered his most eccentric program, the Strategic Defense Initiative, nicknamed Star Wars. But buried in DARPA records lies a lesser-known offshoot, Project Reflector. According to unsealed White House Science Council notes, Reflector was an early virtual reality simulation environment, constructed under the guise of threat modeling. However, transcripts from a 1985 Situation Room session suggest Reagan viewed it as more than a tool. He believed it was a safe space to test political actions before implementing them. We can run entire conflicts, he allegedly said. Find the outcome before anyone gets hurt or blamed. By 1986, Reflector hosted full-scale simulations of hypothetical attacks on Libya, the USSR, and even domestic unrest scenarios in Los Angeles. A follow-up memo from the NSA describes Reagan Scenario 5B, involving martial law in 5 U.S. cities in response to financial collapse, a scenario reportedly approved if indicators rise above threshold red. Thankfully, that contingency was never activated. But the simulations, updated into the early 90s, bear uncanny similarities to future real-world events, including the 1992 LA riots. Bush Sr. S. Sublevel 17. In 1990, President George H.W. Bush approved the construction of a subterranean facility beneath Fort Meade known as Sublevel 17. Unlike other defense projects, this one was categorized as Non-Operational Existential Asset, NOEA, a designation even senior Pentagon officials found confusing. Its purpose? According to newly surfaced files, Sublevel 17 was a containment and testing site for cognitive anomalies. Memos reference recovered devices, some biological, others metallic, believed to exhibit nonlinear perception frameworks. One report describes an object that emits temporal displacement fields in 30-second loops. What's more disturbing is a redacted account of a 1991 incident in which Subject 4 reportedly entered the field, only to emerge speaking reversed English and exhibiting aged skin despite being 27 years old. Bush authorized the facility's expansion and issued an executive finding granting perpetual security classification to any anomaly linked to Sublevel 17. There are no publicly acknowledged successors to the program. But one footnote in a Clinton-era report hints at an upgraded site, Sublevel 18, beneath an undisclosed Midwestern Air Force base. Clinton's Code Black Cipher. The final batch of Clinton-era files includes a series of internal memoranda from National Security Advisor Sandy Berger. The topic, a classified cyber espionage task force codenamed Code Black. Unlike earlier digital warfare, this wasn't aimed at foreign threats, but internal leaks. After the 1996 Oklahoma City bombing and the increasing public distrust of government, Clinton feared what he called the digital guillotine, mass-coordinated hacks exposing confidential programs, surveillance activities, and black budget ops. Under Code Black, the NSA developed Sentinel, an AI-trained pattern recognition engine designed to detect whistleblowing behavior before it occurred. It analyzed keystrokes, phone rhythms, and even emotional sentiment in employee emails. Anyone who triggered a flag was referred for behavioral evaluation. More shockingly, documents show that at least 12 federal employees were fired, isolated, or institutionalized after being flagged by Sentinel. Clinton's signed margin note on one such case reads, "This is the price of holding the center together." One chilling memo from late 2000, just weeks before Clinton left office, contains a recommendation: mothball Sentinel if new administration resists. Otherwise, begin Phase 2. Whether Phase 2 ever launched remains unknown. The pattern beneath the secrets. As these stories emerged from the archives, a strange pattern became evident. Every president from Nixon to Clinton authorized or inherited a hidden initiative that sought to either alter perception, control information, or influence environments beyond conventional science. These weren't just secrets, they were systems. Interconnected experiments in power, control, and foresight. What united them was the belief that full disclosure would erode public trust, or worse, collapse institutions. What's now certain, they weren't isolated incidents, nor simple Cold War paranoia. They were parts of a deeper playbook, one that evolved in the shadows of official history. The letter protocol, messages to the next commander-in-chief. Tradition holds that each U.S. president leaves a private letter for their successor. Typically kept informal and inspirational, these notes are sealed in the Resolute desk and never made public. But in a secure digital archive labeled Transition Communications, Level 5 Restricted, 10 of these handwritten letters were found, scanned and preserved in secret. They are not what history expected. Nixon's letter to Ford. Don't trust the agencies entirely. They've evolved beyond oversight. There are programs I never approved, and some I tried to stop. I failed. You won't be able to win either, but try to keep them on a leash. Ford to Carter. You're about to learn about things no president should know. Some things we didn't win in World War II, some things we inherited. If you hear the name Project Echo, burn the file. Immediately. Carter to Reagan. They will show you a film. Don't watch it alone. The man in the third chair, he isn't CIA. You'll think he is, but he's not. Ask for his badge. He won't show it. That's your answer. Reagan to Bush Sr. I pretended not to remember some of it. That was my shield. You won't have that luxury. If the day comes that they ask you to sign off on Echo Event Protocol, ask how many times it's been triggered before. They won't answer, but ask anyway. Bush Sr. to Clinton. You'll be tempted to expose something, especially after the files on Dallas, RFK, and the last Whisper Room tape. Don't. You'll win no praise and make no friends. This job is survival first, legacy second. Remember that. Clinton's successor's letter was not included in the archive. The Shadow Council. Among the most damning discoveries is documentation of a mysterious advisory group known only as the Shadow Council, not a formal agency, but a rotating set of individuals drawn from defense, intelligence, science, and private industry. Their purpose: to advise the president on continuity of civilization scenarios. The council was reportedly established under Nixon in 1973 after a close-call Soviet defection and has met with every president since. A folder marked Council Briefing, 1989/Bush, describes a simulation in which the U.S. population drops below 30 million after a bioengineered flu escapes a Canadian facility. Another from 1993, during Clinton's tenure, details Terraform Event Bravo, involving geoengineering to reverse ice cap melt that backfires, causing a mini-ice age in Europe. The council met biannually, off-books, often on naval vessels or at decommissioned bases. While most names remain redacted, a few slip through: William Casey, CIA, Dr. Edward Teller, physicist, Admiral Bobby Inman, NSA, and, surprisingly, Henry Kissinger, well into the 1990s. Each president had the right to dissolve the council. None did. The missing pardon, Nixon's real bargain. Watergate might have ended Nixon's career, but it didn't end his influence. A startling 1974 memo from White House counsel Fred Buzhardt reveals that Nixon negotiated not just a pardon, but protection of a highly classified archive labeled C-Block. C-Block, as revealed in attached inventory sheets, included tapes from FBI surveillance on foreign nationals with ties to U.S. elected officials. A sealed deposition from Howard Hughes about offshore political donations. A briefing titled Operation Sunstorm, detailing the intentional spread of disinformation through the Associated Press during 1969 to 1972. A file labeled Daily/Texas Compromise, 1960 election, referring to political interference in Kennedy's victory. In return for his silence and departure, Ford's team agreed not only to pardon Nixon, but to transfer C-Block to a secure site at Camp David under permanent suppression. What Nixon truly blackmailed the presidency into preserving may never be fully known. But its shadow lingers through every administration that followed. The Vault in the Vault, Room 632B. One final revelation binds all presidents from Nixon to Clinton. Hidden within the Eisenhower Executive Office Building is Room 632B, a windowless chamber beneath Subbasement Level 3, accessible only via a secondary elevator shaft disabled in public blueprints. Described in one memo as Vault within the Vault, Room 632B is referenced in emergency procedures as the fail-safe archive. Its contents, according to a 1997 Clinton-era internal inventory: one titanium case containing non-standard metallic artifacts recovered Alaska, 1986. One sealed cassette tape marked, If Washington Falls. 4 leather-bound journals written by former CIA directors. A device described only as reactive anomalous clockwork, source unknown. A chilling final page, appended to the archive log, bears Clinton's signature and the note: "Whatever happens, this must outlive all of us." Final reflections: what it all means. It would be easy to dismiss these revelations as relics of Cold War anxiety, sci-fi ambitions, or paranoid power politics. But that would ignore the staggering consistency of these secrets, across time, administrations, ideologies, and crises. Each president inherited a government far more complex, more autonomous, and more secretive than the one described in civics books. And with each administration, that shadow government was further reinforced, through new technologies, tighter circles of trust, and deeper suppression of truth. These were not merely national secrets. They were presidential burdens. Knowledge so destabilizing, the choice was often to hide, contain, or simply endure in silence. And so they did. Until now.